All right, welcome back. It's chapter 13, section 2. War consumes Europe, and we
Eats
see.
it up.
Oh yeah, we see these images here of the action of World War One. We have an early version of the tank right here, making its way across
Comes
the
in right at the
trenches.
end of World War One.
We have soldiers with machine guns here and here. They have their gas masks.
Ready
and
for an
these
attack.
soldiers are marching. Looks like this gentleman here has been struck in the neck, I'm supposing. Just awful what these soldiers had to endure.
And I see a lot of them have gas masks on, so he doesn't. So that might not be a good thing.
I know. So just a little background on how this turned into a world war, because it started off between Austria, Hungary, and Serbia. But on July 28th, exactly 1 month after the assassination of Franz Ferdinand,
Poor guy.
Austria declares war on Serbia. Russia mobilized their army on the borders of Austria and
Getting
Germany,
ready.
and Germany saw that as an act of war. So as a result of that, on August 1st, Germany declared war on Russia, and they also had to declare war on France
Busy couple days.
because they have a certain plan that they have to implement.
Yes, I think it's called the Schlieffen Plan.
That is right. So Germany declares war on France on August 3rd, and their plan was, well, if we're going to attack France, we're not going to go right into France, we're going to go sneaky style
Ooh.
into Belgium.
Who's neutral at this time?
And that's right, and that's what's going to involve Britain.
Because they said no, no, no. So the Schlieffen Plan, General Schlieffen, Alfred Schlieffen, again, thought we would defeat France in 39 days. So I don't know if you guys remember, some of those quotes, it'll all be over before Christmas, before the leaves fall from the trees. They expected this war to be very quick. The Germans were pretty confident. So a little way to hopefully remember it is go through Belgium and attack France first, so FF. France first, powerful country, get to Paris, capture the capital, and hopefully once you've successfully captured France, the powerful country, then they would go to Russia. So I said rush to Russia. So that was my little way of trying to remember the Schlieffen Plan. France
That's a good
first, and then rush to Russia. Because Russia at this time was a little less industrialized, and they thought it would take a while for Russia to mobilize and really get started. So 40 days, get France. By the time they got to Russia, they assumed that the Russians wouldn't be ready, and they'd take these two pretty big countries in, 2-3 months, and hopefully win the war.
Sounds like a good plan.
Sounds like a good plan.
And Germany defeated France in the Franco-Prussian War in 6 weeks, so they thought they could do it again.
Yeah, Germans are pretty confident. Oh, Kaiser.
There is General Schlieffen, who worked on this plan night
Is he
and
that
day.
short, or you think it's the picture?
I think is he on his knees? I don't know.
I don't know.
Little Schlieffen. But anyway, this plan consumed his life so much that actually his last words were in reference to the plan.
Really? Oh my
And
gosh.
It was something along the lines of remember to fortify the right, and making the army sweeping into Belgium and the Netherlands really strong.
Oops.
Unfortunately, they didn't do that, and that was part
Fail.
of the problem. So the Schlieffen Plan would sweep into Belgium and then go underneath and surround Paris and knock it off, and a smaller German army could advance this way. That was the idea of the
Get
plan.
the capital, get the country.
Heck yeah. So we're going to see new alliances in this war. We have the Triple Alliance.
Now
will
it becomes
become
the Central Powers.
Central Powers, because Italy is going to drop out. So you still have Germany, you still have Austria-Hungary, and they also add the Ottoman Empire and Bulgaria.
The
And-
Triple Entente, which is French for alliance or
Ah.
group, now become the Allied powers. So we've got Britain, France, Russia, Italy, after a few weeks, switch sides. Japan will eventually join, and it says there are 32 other nations. Some of them smaller, some of them colonies of these countries, but definitely different from the beginning.
So 32 nations versus 4. And the crazy thing is Germany's side will almost win. That's how tough they were. Wasn't because of Bulgaria.
Nope. The little guy right there.
So here's the new Central Powers, because they're located in the
Center of Europe.
we have Germany, Austria, I can't find the cursor, there it
we
is,
go.
Austria, you have Germany, Bulgaria, and the Ottoman Empire, and the
Turkey.
Allied powers are surrounding them. All right, so the
Schlieffen
Schlieffen Plan worked early in the war, and it looked like the Germans were going to get into Paris, but the French are going to hold the line at the Battle of the Marne.
The first, one of the things they say is that I think there was like 600 taxicabs that literally loaded soldiers in to bring them to the front lines. Any way to get soldiers and reinforcements.
And they dug in. They extended hundreds of miles of trenches to hold the line. And this just was the beginning of trench warfare, where the sides took turns attacking each other, suffered heavy casualties, and didn't really gain any land.
No, they call this the bloody stalemate. So no real advances, but still like deadly battles.
So battles of the Marne, Ypres, Verdun, incredible casualty rates. This was all along the Western Front.
We talked a little bit about like gaining so many miles. Like they only gained 4 miles. I think one of them Verdun, and like over 300,000 men were killed. And to think about that, when you're trying to take over a country, 4 miles is nothing.
It's
Absolutely nothing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Ypres is 1.7 million casualties.
Wow.
Verdun, 300,000
Yep.
casualties. Battle of the Somme was 500,000,
Yep.
and that was to get 1 mile of land.
And 20,000 British in one day, they said there.
Yep.
Crazy.
So here's
So
an
the
image
trenches.
of the trenches. You can see how intricate they were, and they had little dugouts if you're getting shelled, and soldiers would line these trenches and rise up and attack the enemy from time
And then they
to
could
time.
get to other trenches through other cutouts that they made connecting them all.
25,000 miles of trenches
Can you
along the
imagine
Western
digging
Front.
all of those trenches? I can't even
I
imagine.
know. So here are the soldiers
I really
rising
like
up
to
out of the
plant
trench.
flowers, let alone.
That's
dig
the
a
Battle
trench.
of Verdun. Just how incredibly scary for these soldiers. These
know.
are German soldiers, you can tell by the pointy helmet.
What they use those for? Ram people?
Yeah.
When they ran
You're out of
a
weapons.
last ditch effort, ram your head into somebody?
Again, living in the trench, what life must be like. Just you could see the constant shelling of the forest, just
Like
leaves
burning
it
down the
nothing.
trees and nothing left.
The Eastern Front was a little bit
A little
different.
chilly.
The Germans and the Russians are fighting in the east as well. Less trench warfare, more armies moving about. We have the Russians and the Serbs teamed up against the Germans, the Austrians, and the Turks.
Yeah, and like we said, Russia not as industrialized, short on food, guns, ammo. They didn't have a really advanced railroad system either. So getting supplies and getting troops, to the front lines was really difficult. And something we'll talk about a little bit later: Allies not being able to get supplies because of some of those blockades between
That's
the
right.
Germans, the British, eventually the United States. So. And some of the weapons of World War I.
Oh yeah.
The machine gun. So I feel like every few years they keep advancing, and like exponentially, we get these new, ways of changing war. So the machine gun, the tanks. The tank is going to come in toward the end of the war, but still pretty important, and that's going to really change even just and trench warfare, because these tanks can just roll over the trenches. So you won't see too much of that in World War II. But the airplane, my favorite is the Zeppelin or the blimp, flying high, really quiet, but used to drop small bombs, things
That's
like that.
right. And the German Unterseebootens, the U-boats, caused havoc on the seas because there's no way to detect them back then. And Germany used
Yeah.
them very effectively and sank hundreds of boats. All countries adopted total war, so you're using all of your resources for the war effort, and they engaged in propaganda where you're spreading ideas and facts and rumors about the enemy deliberately to help further your cause
Exactly.
and to hurt theirs. So all of these were very effective
And especially, I think the
weapons.
total war is really important too, because every citizen was involved. I mean, encouraging you to save your food and ration, so that way that stuff could be sent to, the troops is, pretty important. Trying to get everybody to do their part, even if they're not in the military. All right.
Okay, so that concludes section 2.
Ooh.
And we
Nice
have
job,
2
Mr.
more
Loebner.
sections. You too, Mrs. Vanis.